Greetings, beautiful souls. Welcome. Welcome to Cosmic Truth Reverence, experiencing your infinite self. The Cosmic Truth Conference is gathering a unique panel of leading edge New Earth visionaries who will share heart opening and soul elevating wisdom to dive deep into our multidimensional realities, embracing our star origins, and embodying our amazing divine humanness. We are invited to gather in reverence to the infinite truth of who we are and experience our sovereignty as galactic humans, elevating our planetary consciousness, together ushering in the new golden earth. Thank you for being here with us. I am Lise, Ashaara, your host, and it's a pleasure to welcome our guest, Krys Rael. Welcome, Krys.
Hey, greetings. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share and to, be a part of this panel. I think it's going to be absolutely transcendent. So thank you.
Great, thanks. So let me introduce you to everyone. Krys is a teacher of ether physics and soul guide. His work through cosmic frequency helps people expand their consciousness and deepen their levels of self-mastery without getting caught up in the illusions of the mind and of New Age spiritual propaganda. You can find Krys on his website, cosmicfrequency.org. So, Krys, to begin, I'm very excited to converse on your topic because it's called moving beyond time and meditation. So it's time has always been a very exciting topic for me. So I can't wait to dive in. So could you start by sharing, in your perspective, what is time and how does it relate to our human Earth journey?
Yes. So time equally is one of my most favorite topics. I've talked about it quite often, but it's like every time I bring it up, there's always more to expand upon it. So in brief, time, as we've been taught on Earth, is seen as a linear point A to point B. I was actually in a couple Facebook groups and trying to share my insights on time, and they were talking about how time is a linear process and how it can be measured. And I just totally disagree. I think that time in and of itself is awareness. It's one's ability to be aware, right? So for example, if I don't have awareness of self, then there's no reference point. So time gives us a reference point. It is the progression of our thoughts, and each thought being a frequency in and of itself actually gives us the framework of reality, right? So it's like, in short, time is awareness of being. When you become aware that you are, you start to generate the illusion or the concept of a linear progression of thoughts, right? So if I say the cat jumped over the moon and ate a popsicle, that dun 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 is time, but it's all actually happening. I don't like to say now, but it just is. It's happening in the presence. So um, that's the short explanation. Because again, time is such an expansive topic, but I think to break it down, it'd be one's awareness, presence of being.
Mhm. So would you say that animals, for example, or plants have also this perception, or how do they relate? I mean, how do you think they relate to time?
I love that. Do animals and plants? Yes. So I would say, like, my mind went to a crystal. I think crystals exist in a state of timelessness because they're a one-dimensional consciousness. They have they just are. But that's it. They just are. And so it's not like the crystal's seeing itself as here and then you over there, because that would then generate a perception of movement, of time. So for crystals in this example, they'd be existing in a state of timelessness, just pure presence, pure awareness. Animals, definitely. I think animals definitely have a progression sequence of thought, right? Plants as well. I think trees move in between being timeless, but also comprehending the nature of I am a tree, this is that, and that's a human, right? Because I've interacted with trees and different plants. There's a intelligence, there's a sentience there. And it's that sentience that allows us to have the illusion of separation. And that illusion of separation is what we call time.
Yes, absolutely. It's very, very interesting because there are two things. You mentioned movement and
Mhm.
time. How do
Yes.
you relate them? I mean, you touched upon it, but can you elaborate on this?
Yes. So time, okay, so understanding, like getting to the core of time is probably one of the most advanced things you can do, because you free yourself from the illusion of being bound by a time. So movement, right? So again, this Facebook group that I was a part of, they were talking about how it took, 5 million light years to do this, and now light years, and I'm like, but light years is just an idea. It's just a concept. It's not real. Space and time are ideas within the ether, within the field of consciousness. So movement is really predicated on frequency. Remember when I said thoughts are frequencies? So instead of thinking, okay, I need to get up and walk over there out of the room and go to the bookshelf, that's a form of movement. But when you really get into it and you comprehend that the bookshelf in that area is vibrating at a certain frequency, right? So if I imagine using the power of thought, now we're getting into things like teleportation, right? It all ties together. If I imagine myself being and feeling and know myself at the bookshelf, then I'm going to generate the experience of being at the bookshelf, which we would call teleportation. So movement is based in frequency. So another example, if you are driving in a car, right, and you're going a certain 60 kilometers per hour, right, and then a car zooms by you and it's going 120 kilometers per hour. Those are two different frequencies. That 120 kilometers may not even see the person driving at 60. They'd be invisible, right? if if you driving at 60 kilometers starts to uh rev up to 120 kilometers, now it's going to seem like you in that car are stationary,
Mm, mm,
right? So I'm touching upon different frameworks of perception, movement, and the ability to trace our thoughts, right? So I know it seems like a lot, but yeah.
No, it's not. Thank you for unpacking this because I think it's well, of course, we have all the framework we're living in,
Right,
our education and so on.
we need this.
And that's why it gives us a framework. But as you mentioned, it also limits us. And obviously,
Right.
uh, uh, getting free from this is I think can help us reach our cosmic nature and our cosmic truth, because the theme of the conference and of the is reverence for ourself and our infinite self. So how would you say that time, this earthly perception of time that we have, how can this help us reach or anyway open up to our cosmic nature?
I love that. So our cosmic nature is is really rooted in, at least for me, in the stars. And the stars are a direct emanation of the source, or of what I call the ether or divine principle, right? So when you start to expand your awareness, you move beyond the traditional frameworks of thinking. You know, you no longer are interested in the everyday concepts that people talk about, the pains and all this stuff. You start to expand your awareness. And part of that expansion process is seeing the non-linear approach to reality. And so time, again, being a truly individualized experience, because my time and your time are totally different. 1 hour for you is going to feel different and pass differently for you than it is for me, right? So again, time is based on that perception. So when it comes to our cosmic nature, we then start to mature not only in our thoughts and how we perceive the greater reality, but then it helps us develop new technologies even. Because now we comprehend that, well, all right, if there really is no space, meaning everything is based in frequency, I could build a device that could now generate the frequency of where I want to go and walk through it. And we would call that a portal, right? So do you see how we go from nonlinear time, understanding there is no, point A to point B, but an instantaneous teleportation portal experience because we're expanding our consciousness in a cosmic way. So you can trace that, you can trace your divine principle to time and to being able to perceive more of reality. It's like if you have a jar and it's this high, right? It's just an example, but most people can only perceive this much of the jar. So when you get into your cosmic nature and you really start to allow yourself to perceive more, you have access to more of that jar. At this point, there's more information, more data here than there is here. So as you develop your cosmic nature, you're now allowing yourself to perceive more of what you actually already are. You've always had access to your innermost truest self. It's just that we have to remember how to expand and let go of the things that we've been indoctrinated in so that we can experience more of that, right? The more data you have, the more you perceive, the more you can do, aka evolution, transcendence, ascension, whatever you want to call it.
Absolutely. Thank you for unpacking this. And in your title, in your topic, you related time to meditation. And you said moving beyond time and meditation. So could you tell us why you link them? And it's probably to access more awareness, but can you tell us how you link them, and then how can we move, and why moving beyond that?
Yeah, I certainly can. So I was sitting by a river one time and I was watching the water flow. Excuse me. And I could hear the water and I could see it. And if you ever sat by water, it's a beautiful sound. It's a wonderful experience, right? It's very healing for you in many different ways. But I closed my eyes and then I realized I could still hear the water, but I like without my eyes being open, I couldn't tell which direction the water was flowing. Is it flowing east to west, west to east? It just was, right? And it wasn't until I opened my eyes that I saw, oh, okay, there's a movement. Now I can see where the water is going, aka I focused. So this is a principle that I call times arrow. I actually teach this in my academy and some of my private Facebook groups. The principle of times arrow is you are the center point. You are the source. Your awareness, wherever you focus, just like the river flowing, you are going to generate your life experience. And so from here, the past, the future, the present don't matter. It's just different. It's just different experiences that you are now generating because you're focusing on them. If I focus on playing a video game from 2005, early 2000s, if I continue to think about that and I put my awareness in that direction, that video game is going to show up. So did I time travel back to 2005 because I am now having the same experience I did from 2005? In a way, yes. So time's arrow helps us move consciously to different parts of our being and access them at will. And really, there is no limit to it. Now, going beyond meditation, this is the part that's interesting. Most people are taught to meditate to heal trauma or to find deep states of peace and relaxation, right? Which is wonderful. But those are really just the preliminaries. The whole point of meditation is to go beyond that into what some traditions call nirvana, or to the bliss states. So what is that? That is whenever our brain waves shift out of the beta, a theta, and then even alpha, and move into gamma and other unrecognized and unmeasurable brain waves, to where we now are in the state of pure potential. And I call this the creator zone. And it's only from that deep state of going beyond the traditional steps of meditation, from that deep state of true, genuine awareness and presence, can you actually make a change in your life, in your reality? Because that's where everything is coming from to begin with. You can't change your life from the preliminary of meditation. You have to go beyond the meditation and into the deeper frameworks from which all things are materialized from. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does actually, and it brings us back to what you were mentioning about creating this portal in our awareness. And what I would like to ask is, our physical body and all our subtle bodies, all our subtle light bodies, do you qualify them as dimensions? And then how would they relate to time? Is time linked to only one of those dimensions in our bodies? Or anyway, it brings a
No,
lot
I
of...
love it. Well, I love your questions. I love how you go into these spaces. So subtle bodies. I'll get to that in a second. So if you and I, so if actually, let's go here. There was a science experiment that was done, I think, back in the 90s. There was a bunch of people who were ill. They were more elderly, probably in their 70s and 80s, towards the end of their life, even though that's a program in and of itself. Age is definitely a program, but traditionally speaking, they weren't doing well. And so this group of scientists, and this was, yeah, in the 90s, I believe. So a group of scientists took these people and they curated an environment, a little town, and made this little town look like it was from the 1940s. So all the buildings were shaped, and built like the 1940s. All the cars, the music, the food, everything was like the 1940s. So they take this group of people in the year 1990 or so, put them in this environment, and they just want to see what happens. So over the course of a couple of weeks, they noticed that the people's ailments started to decrease. They actually started to become healthier. Now, these are people who were basically, maybe had a couple of years, they were going to die. And then after a few more weeks, some of them started to seem much happier. And then as time progressed more, some of them actually healed, and they all their elements totally went away, right? And then it kind of goes on from there. Eventually, the whole group was healed, and they started to look younger, and they started to appear more youthful, more vibrant, more jubilant, and happy. And so the only thing that changed was the environment. So they thought that they were living in the year 1940, but the year 1940 is just what? An idea. It's a concept, right? So time, again, is just an idea. It's just a concept. It's really about what you are generating and focusing on in what you're surrounding yourself with.
Mm-hmm.
You see how time is not anything stationary. It's all based in like just your perception.
Mm-hmm.
So these people's bodies assumed that they time traveled or whatever back into 1940 where they were younger. It was an amazing piece of science, one of the best ones I've ever found. So, and it's the same thing. If I put you in a room and there's no clock, no windows, you're not going to, you have no concept.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to age. And if you do, it's because you believe that you're going to age. But if there's no clock or no windows, no reference point, what is time? It's just you and your awareness. You're timeless.
Mm-hmm.
So, subtle bodies. I don't think that there is a physical body, astral body. I think that there is only one source, and that source focuses at different points within itself. So right now, the consciousness is focused here. So I am generating a body. But whenever I go to sleep at night, I'm going to dream and I'm going to have a body in that dream. Right? So, and if I transition or die in this life, I'm going to generate another body. So it's not that we have different bodies, it's that the soul is always going to express what it thinks it is based on the vibrations and the frequencies that it's experiencing at any given time. So that's the short answer for me is I don't think we have different bodies. I think we just have different areas of where we focus and we generate a vehicle to have that experience.
Right. Wow. Yes. Wow. Yes. Exactly. Exciting.
Doesn't it make it more like it's not so complicated then? It's like just be clear-minded in your thinking, right? What do you want to experience? You're going to generate the form or whatever for you to have that experience.
Yes, it all ties into this perception that we embody whatever the body we choose then or to materialize or to anyway to create, and it goes back to the creator being that we are and what you were linking it. And so could you then do we need to go to a different dimension to expand our awareness, or is it still only perception? But then
so dimensions, and so for me, dimensions and densities are really just states of mind, right? It's like if I live in America, or no, let's say I live in Connecticut, USA, and I want to go to New York. There is not a line drawn in the sand that says, okay, as soon as you move here, that's Connecticut and that's New York. It doesn't exist. Well, it's the same thing with dimensions. Can anyone point out where the fifth dimension is, where the 12th dimension? It's not there. All that's there is your state of awareness. So again, it comes down to how much you can perceive and how much ethereal data you can process, which then goes into how strong is your physical brain, which means are your dendrites and your neurons firing correctly? So it all ties together. The more that you can perceive means that your neural network is stronger. And when your neural network is stronger, you're going to be able to experience different dimensions, AKA physical things that are happening, but as a byproduct of what you've now accepted as your immediate reality. So we only transcend limiting thoughts within ourselves. We don't go anywhere. But I will say, again, using the car example, someone going 120 kilometers, someone going, let's say even 30 now, zoom, you won't even see them, right? So as you really start to develop self-mastery, your frequency raises to the point where I do feel like some of us will become invisible because we're at a different spectrum of frequency. There's just no more compatibility. And that's where we get things like ghosts and apparitions and, interdimensional beings. Everything is here, but the physical eyes, unless trained appropriately, can only see a small fraction of what's there. So I teach something called ether phase shifting, where I'm still practicing the art of invisibility, which is learning how to shift between the different octaves of the light spectrums. It's really just thoughts. It's this stuff is amazing, and I love talking about it.
Yes, it's very exciting because it gives us so much sovereignty, of course, and so much uh, well, sacredness as well, because to access all this and to all this is available. It's just up to us to open up and to reach out, or anyway to phase it in with it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's and there's not many areas in the world where you can actually practice this kind of thing. And this is why I do what I do with cosmic frequency and my online academy, my one-on-one coaching. It's because it's like we need areas, and like the work that you do too, we need areas where this stuff is important. It's real, it's tangible, it's talked about, it's not taboo, because our cosmic truth and our cosmic awareness, for me, is the missing link to all the things. It's the one thing that's been either compartmentalized and controlled opposition, or simply seen as taboo. But I think where you and I really connect is in the middle of, this is the truth. This is our divine inheritance that we were never taught about. And so yourself and others are here to bring back these great truths, because it's here, you know. We have the technology within us all the time.
Yes, absolutely. And I like that you refer to, I mean, I like and I don't like, because obviously there is this all this thing going on about technology and
Mhm.
transhumanism and so on.
Mhm.
Obviously, this is tainted, but looking at our bodies and our consciousness as technology, yes, I like it because it gives us as a human something to
Mhm.
grasp, understand, and as you were saying, understanding is opening and
Mhm.
putting up into this jar of knowledge and awareness, isn't it?
Right. Yes, exactly. I'm just gonna move my mic a little because I realized I was kind of far away from
No,
it.
I can hear you good. We can
Okay.
hear you.
Okay,
And
good. Mhm.
so you also mentioned a bit earlier on about the fact that we are consciousness, we are awareness, we are source, but then how can we make source even more tangible in our
Mm.
world? And this brings us back to awareness. And what is your definition of source in this instance?
So I'll do my best to keep this one short because it really doesn't need to be complicated. But um, the source is like, okay, a fish is swimming in the ocean. The source for that fish is literally the water. If it gets taken out of the water, most fish are not going to survive. So the fish has within it every single aspect of its being is designed to be efficient and proficient at swimming and thriving in the atmosphere that it is literally one with and that sustains it, called water or the ocean, right? So on a soul level, it's the same thing. When you breathe in, you're not breathing air. You breathe, that is the life force, the essence, the prima matra, the ethereal principle, pure potential energy that moves through your nasal passage into your lungs. And the way that the lungs are designed, they help to coalesce and in turn and convert that potential energy into oxygen, right? So embodiment can be as simple as breathing, because you are quite literally always surrounded with and are one with the source. The source is pure potential. It's our consciousness, right? It's that aspect of us that is undefined until we give it definition. So sometimes people want to make it really complicated and they think embodiment means like you're saying certain words or you're doing certain things. For me, embodiment is feeling, like even just holding my hands and feeling my fingers tingle. I can feel that energy flowing through me. So now I know I can do different things. I practice qigong almost every single day, right? And so why do I do that? Because it's like a cell phone. If I want to charge my phone, I plug it into the outlet because that's the source. If my body is one with the source, I need to know how to utilize and move with this real substance. This isn't imaginary. This is a real intelligence that is us. And so practicing Qigong is a great way to work with that, with the source, with ourselves. Like I said, deep states of meditation, getting out in nature, these are great ways to embody it, because it's always there. It's about removing all these kind of new age thoughts around it, and just realizing it is the substance that sustains all things.
Yes, yes, I like. Thank you. Thank you for elaborating, and I like how you refer to it as yes, as our sustained source. I mean, as a source, really, as like your example with the fish, and
Right.
for us, it's the yes, we can call it the prana, the chi. All of this is what it's the
That's
same.
it's the same thing.
When you say ether,
Mhm.
it's this well, the electrons or whatever. I mean, I'm not all this, that all the particles that are around us.
So, well, it's not. So no, it's the particles are a result of it.
Mm,
So think of it like this. Go back to water. Um, if you freeze water, it turns into, we call it ice,
mm,
right?
mm,
If you condense the ether, we call it a particle. Now, if
mm,
you have a bunch of particles put together, we call that a molecule.
mm,
Molecules put together turn into, or no, atom, and then those atoms turn into the molecule. And then we get into electrons, ions, neutrons, protons, physical body, cell, then physical body. Do you see?
mm,
So each step of the way is just the source, or the pure potential energy again,
mm,
in a more refined form.
mm,
So the particles and stuff that we see, or the physicality, is just the ether that's been that vibrates at a certain frequency, and we call that a standing wave. There is
mm,
no physical world. Everything is standing waves of what? Of the medium in which it finds itself in. Just like in the ocean, whenever there's a wave in the ocean, you don't see that wave as something else. You see it as what? The ocean, the
mm,
water again. If you
mm,
take that water and you freeze it and you build a sculpture out of it, it's still the ocean. It's still the water.
mm,
So all these things that we see are byproducts of the ether,
mm,
which is generated from a consciousness that is aware, from a soul. We
mm,
did all this. We're always creating and bringing things from the no thing into the something,
mm,
right? It's profound. Reality really is profound when you really, really sit with it and observe it. It's
mm,
cosmic.
mm. Yes, it's yeah, profound, and it's awe-inspiring. Reverence, it inspires
Mhm,
reverence. It comes back to
mhm.
it. But what you were saying, it brought up to my mind the notion of fractals, and so fractals zooming in, zooming out. I mean,
Mm.
it's the same concept, isn't it, that you are expanding upon?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because most people think dualistically, they don't know how to think in unity or totality.
Mm,
So we think hot, cold, up, down, left, right, masculine, feminine, here, there. Fractals would be another example of that. But again, the ocean wave, the cup of water, the frozen ice block, the vapor or the steam is still the same one thing.
mm,
So the difference is being able to see that, and not say, oh, those are separate things, right? It's just a separate function of the one thing.
mm,
So we see animals, trees, rocks, planets, stars, and we think, and human beings, we think, or ETs, we think, oh, those are separate things. separate only to the eyes, but in the essence and the principle, they are all brought forth from the same breath of life of any as everything else, right? So learning how to see the ether move through all things, it is the only thing that sustains things. What differentiates you from me is your frequency, is how often the ether is moving, right? There's a science behind it I call ether physics. So, this wave pattern is going to create a certain shape, but this wave pattern is going to create a certain shape. It's the same principle, but you're going to see two different things. But those two different things are generated by the same one thing at different rates of frequency, hence cosmic frequency, right?
Mm. Wow. Wow. Yes. Wow. And just a question. Is this ether frequency or ether physics, is it only related to our universe, and do you think in other universe it's another principle, which is
So I love this. I love this. All right. So I'm going to ask you a question to answer this. Do you think that if I take a cup of water from the Atlantic Ocean and I drive to the I don't know, to China, and I place that cup of water in the sink, that's the still and dump it down the sink, do you think it's still the same cup of water? Is it still the same water if it mixes with other waters?
yeah, yes, it still is to me.
So yeah, it's true. This remember, distance is not a thing. Distance is
Mm,
a framework of mind that we give ourselves to have an experience.
mm,
Teleportation is the art of understanding that there is no distance. There's only
mm,
the frequency of the one thing.
mm,
So there is no alternate universes. There's only more of the same thing
mm,
in different forms.
mm, mm, mm,
If I am um, in a house and I'm sitting in the living room and all I've known is the living room, then one day I get up and open the door and then I see another room. Of course, it's going to seem like a whole other house,
mm,
but it's not. It's the
mm,
same house. I've just now expanded my ability to move into a different room, right?
mm.
So, so I like to keep things simple and practical because it really is, but it's
It
also
is.
transcendent and expansive.
Mm.
Yeah. So that means there's no alternate realities, there's no parallel universes, there's only the ability to see different potentials of what's always there.
Mm. Mm. It's really fun, in fact. I mean, it really brings us back to this well, being open and being just curious and
Mhm.
childlike, because it's really fun what you're
Yeah,
describing.
yeah, you
This
get to
world.
play. Exactly. You get to play with energy. I mean, consciousness is the best playmate. That's why most of the time we're trained out of how not to think. No
Mm,
one knows, not no one, but a lot of people do not know how to actually think. They know how to regurgitate information, but they don't know how to contemplate, observe, feel, seek to understand, come to conclusion, and integrate knowledge into wisdom. That's an art nowadays, unfortunately. And that's how we used to live. I know that's how I remember living, not in this world, but in others.
mhm. Yes, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. So, so maybe now I'll take you to another subject, another topic, because I would like you mentioned ETs. I mean, whatever the term we want to use for them, star families, or
Hmm.
so. What is your take on star families, and what is their role in our human journey and our human expansion?
Yeah. So people on Earth have been compartmentalized to feel that there is, you know, is there ETs nowadays? Do people believe that? Yes, I think more people are aware, but there's still this very jaded perception of what they are. So there's ETs walking amongst us all the time because they're just people. They're
Mhm.
people like you, like me. Um, Now there's different varying degrees. Some are here, like myself, as like a walk-in that has experiences from other realms, right, or other star systems. I call myself a star walker for that reason, because I remember those experiences, and it's where I get 90% of my wisdom and information comes from my stellar or cosmic lineage. So the role of ETs, and again, I'm being specific saying ETs and not alien. Those are, whenever I hear the word alien, that tells me there's an agenda behind it. There's something, it's actually to separate people from the true ET reality. So there are people of Lyrian human origin. Lyrian is actually the correct name for humanity. Lyrians are not the space cats that everyone thinks they are. Lyrian, human beings are Lyrian. So the Lyrian race is prevalent throughout the cosmos. And if someone lives on a different planet, we call them an ET, but they're still human. You know, they still have one head, two eyes, arms. They look like us, different shades of color or pigmentation. And so what's their role? I think the role of any extraterrestrial civilization of benevolence is to seed information to assist in the proper progression of a people. At the end of it, that's what it is. I know for me, it's to be here to offer a different point of view so that people can choose to expand into more of what they really are. Why would they want to do that? So that they can be free. Well, how are they not free now? Because again, they're only seeing this much of the reality we talked about. So for people who want to experience this much of the reality versus just this much, there's going to be guides. There's going to be extraterrestrials here to help with that.
That's very beautiful what you are saying, and so they're like big brothers. Big brothers, family, just being the youngest family to just
Exactly.
move on and grow up.
Yeah, no, that's such a good way to look at it. Exactly. Yeah, it's very true. And it's also kin too. I get the word kin. It's like you get placed on a distant planet, you never see your family anymore, and then one day they come over and you're like, who are you? What are you doing here? You know, why do you talk like that? It's like, hey, I love you. I've been here, you know. It's also protection as well. I think that the human race is very targeted, and there's different beings, alien, I'll say, who have ill intent to just harvest the pure frequency that the human soul has, right? And that's an unfortunate part of the cosmic reality. And trust me, it doesn't just stop on Earth. Goes well into different parts of at least this quadrant of the galaxy. So I think a lot of our ET family are here to keep tabs on their kin, on their star seeds, on their people. If you have a loved one and you send them off to a foreign land, you're going to be calling them. You're going to be like, hey, you good over there? How you doing? Right? You're going to find a way to contact them. So at least my star family, the first way they did that was through dream, right? And just synchronicities of profound events. So I was just going to go into a whole thing, but yeah, I think protection and assistance along the way, and helping the human race be free of the galactic and localized tyranny that it might find itself in.
Wow, yes, absolutely. That's a grand site and a grand project that bring us. And so to conclude, maybe can you share with us what is your perspective on our collective journey of ascension, from your point of view, and what you are feeling, and maybe what your star family is sharing?
Yeah, so there's a couple tripwires that I want people to be cautious of when it comes to kind of ascension and everything. I think the message from me and my star team, however you want to put it, is remember yourself first before you try to before anything else, right? Is really connect with your own inner gnosis, because there's a lot of people who want to spiritually progress, but they are not willing to do what it takes to have the spiritual maturity, right? They just want all the candy or the cake, but they don't want to put any effort in like making the ingredients or putting the cake together, right? So when it comes to ascension, ascension is a very personal thing. It's not, at least for me, I see that we all ascend at different stages. Now, when it comes to the collective, when enough of us get to a certain point in our consciousness, it might look different, you know, but it's still relatively the same frequency. That's when the world starts to shift and change, and it's actually already happening, right? So the more you work on yourself, and I'm not just talking about your traumas and your emotions, yes, but I'm also talking about your perceptions, your ability to go beyond the traditional frameworks of thinking, to drop outdated propaganda that's meant to keep you looping and cycling. Do you really understand time? Do you really understand gravity? Do you really understand how things like the ether operate, right? Like these are things that we have to make important again, right? And that's personal ascension, is to dive into those topics, to expand one's neural network in order to perceive more of the greater reality. So that's my word on ascension. Personal, it's inside.
Well, I think it's a great conclusion. It's a great wrap up. I think we will.
Yeah.
I will just mention the free gift that you are
Ah.
offering to the audience.
Mhm.
You are offering I think it's an ebook. It's called Four Ways to Enhance Your Life Through Ether Physics. So could you
Mhm.
share a little bit about this?
Yeah, so that's just a free PDF that I created to give people a tangible and an everyday down to earth um, roadmap to use ether physics in their everyday life. I think I talk about time, knowing how to move through your thoughts differently, and different ways you can embody something like ether physics, because it can seem daunting, but it really isn't. It's just a matter of shifting how you do things. And I give you 4 ways to better yourself, to better your everyday life. Because it's those little things that actually make up the big things. So if you can understand these 4 principles, I think that'll lead to a greater sense of embodiment and fulfillment for you on your path, on your journey.
Wonderful. Thank you for this free gift. And also, could you say where people can find you and if you have any programs coming up after April?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Cosmic Frequency. It's Cosmic Frequency. There's no second E in the word frequency. So I know it's a little tricky. And then I also just opened a Facebook group, so a private Facebook group that you can join in, and that's for cosmic awareness and self mastery. I'll be doing free webinars in there. I'm definitely after April, and website is cosmicfrequency.org. And then we have different projects going on in there. We have a star center that we're going to be putting up, but you guys can check it out. You know, I have so much to give and so much to share. So, yeah.
Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you for being here with us, and to the audience. I'm sure you received so much from this beautiful conversation with Krys. Thank you again. Namaste.
Yes. Thank you. And I appreciate you so much. And I'll talk to you. Okay. Thanks, guys. Be well.